So, welcome back. Honestly, I thought I'd never be making a part 2 to this, but with the sheer amount of support the original Iceberg produced and how much information you guys gave me in the comments, it would be really dumb not to follow up. It did take me quite a while to research, write, edit, and seeing how the previous video has a majority positive feedback, I'm very glad to say that it wasn't all in vain. Now the second part is going to cover not only more topics that I forgot or didn't know enough about originally, I will also be covering some of the corrections you guys made as well as add on to some of the topics of the originals. Again, I cannot be thankful enough just how much support this video got. I originally thought it was going to get a few thousand views and that was it. I didn't know people would listen to me talk about Tony Hawk games for 45 minutes. Your guys' support really means a lot, especially someone as small as I am. But that's enough of the introductions. Let us not only correct the mistakes of the original exploration, but discover new oddities that we originally missed. So, let's begin part 2 of the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater Iceberg.
The floor, sine wave, grinding all the diamonds raw.
To start off the second part, I'm going to go over some mistakes as well as add on to some of the topics provided by you guys in the comments. Let's start off by looking at this comment by Infinite T Gaming. They first start off by stating that there's a second piece of CKY graffiti in the Barcelona level. You can see it placed on this wall a bit outside the boundaries for the level. For the mysterious Neversoft dollar scene in East LA, there are actually two things I want to cover. First off, the reason it's there to begin with. The user Richard pointed out that during Andy THPS's American Wasteland walkthrough, he stated that the person with the dollar is actually him, and it was placed there as a form of payback he was having some frustrations from a level artist while building the level.
I think it was like a jab from the artist because I built this whole building. Like, we needed boundaries, right? And I just built what needed to be there or what felt good, but I had no idea what it was going to be. So I think the artist just like took a dig at me. He's like, I don't know what this is going to be. It's going to be a bank led by Andy, kind of thing.
As for the second thing, if you whack, tag, or throw your board at it, it will break and you'll get the +1 anti-THPS buck along with 1,337 points. To finish off this comment, they state that there are indeed multiple underground shops that are only accessible through glitches of course, and then recommend videos from Alpha Master G, who has multiple videos showcasing various glitches and boundary breaks you can do in American Wasteland. Moving on to other corrections, I must give a formal apology to Robomoto because originally I thought you had to own the Revert Pack DLC in order to perform reverts. Turns out if I just did a second of research about the topic, I would have found out that everyone got the ability to revert once the pack was released. You just paid for the 3 levels. So my mistake on that part. Pro Skater HD still sucks though. Next, we'll talk about this comment left by Guitar God Thor 2. He states that there's actually a lesser known boundary break in Pro Skater 1 in the Area 51 level that you can get to by jumping the right corner of the fence on the first drop-in. However, try as I might, I just couldn't get it to happen, even with a character at max stats. Also, Pro Skater 1 doesn't have a moon gravity cheat in any of the versions. The only one that can really show this is in the Pro Skater 2X version of the level, but since I don't own a copy nor an original Xbox, I'm afraid there's no way to show this. If anyone has a way of doing this, please tell me in the comments as I would like to see this area too. Finally, I'll be discussing this lengthy comment left by Shosker, who gives quite a lot of corrections as well as new trivia I had no idea about. So let's go in order, shall we? Originally, what the pillars were referring to was the one near this yellow building. While writing it, we'll cut to a different camera angle as well as count how many times you rode around it. There's actually a technical reason as to why you cannot see the bed in the Barcelona level. For some reason, there is a transparency bug that is not apparent in the Sony releases for Thug 2, as the bed even appears in the PSP version. This can also be seen with the spinning blades in the Boston level. It's there in the PS2/PSP version, yet on other releases such as the PC, it's not there. It's pretty weird, but my guess is that most games during this time were developed for PS2 in mind, while other ports were handed off to a third party. The Hippo Island is hidden underneath the zoo level as seen here. The hippos don't appear to spawn unless you activate the scope, but since Thug Pro doesn't have that option, I cannot showcase it. You do, however, see the little circle that simulates a scope effect. There's actually a second Kurt reference in Barcelona. If you go to the pier, there's a sign that reads, Por favor, no Kurt en la agua, which translates to, please no Kurt in the water. Also in the debug menu for THPS 4 and Thug 1 and 2, if you select the option score 5 million points, you perform a trick called You Cheat Like Kurt. Kurt just can't catch a break, huh? Air shuffling was originally an exploit that was featured in American Wasteland. It was performed by creating a manual trick, performing it in midair while off your board, then ollieing. Thug Pro brought back this, but made it less complicated to perform. The anti-THPS bunker ledge is originally referring to this video made by the clan called Thug X Online, TXO for short. This video showcases Andy playing THPS 3 and during his run manuals the ledge to what we now know as the bunker ledge. The hookup deck in American Wasteland is actually censored, however not in the way you think it is. The original deck involves a girl having her middle finger up, as you can see on the side by side here. There are also some changes to the background as well. The original uncensored deck however still resides in the game's files. Like with Thug 1 and 2, American Wasteland has its own debug menu complete with strange test cutscenes. Mainly they consist of model tests such as standard joint and facial movements, but there are also some weird ones like the skin test on the cylindrical object from what I assume is a Neversoft eye textured onto it, stretches and twists itself. In Vancouver, if you take a closer look at the limo's license plate, you can see it reads Limousine, another nod to the Homestar Runner series. In the Pro Skater 2X version of Tampa, if you ollie over the hidden dog, it will suddenly disappear, implying it's somewhat related to Ollie the Magic Bum. Again, I want to sincerely thank everyone who helped with the corrections on the first video, as a lot of it even I wasn't aware of, so it was a nice learning experience for both of us. But with that out of the way, let's head into part 2 of the Pro Skater Iceberg. The gym is a small area that is originally blocked off behind these locked doors. However, many people may not remember how to originally access it in the original Pro Skater 2. To do so, you have to hit the roll call open sesame rails within 30 seconds of the level starting. Once you open it, it will be forever open to skate around it. Underground 2 had many unlockable skaters. I mean, pretty much every single NPC in the game can be used to skate as. Examples being a disembodied hand, a THPS 1 version of Tony Hawk, a Call of Duty soldier when the series still focused around World War II, and Shrek. Beating the game on the easy difficulty will unlock Shrek as a playable skater. He even has some unique special moves, and even a unique tagging animation where he just burps spray into existence. As to why he's in here, it's most likely that Activision wanted Neversoft to put Shrek in Thug 2, as the Tony Hawk games were still really popular around the time Shrek 2 was released, and that they also secured the rights to publish the Shrek 2 video game. On the airport level in Pro Skater 3, if you activate the debug cam we talked about in the first video and look underneath the floor, you'll be able to see that the entire level is mirrored vertically underneath, as there was no real way to have RTX-like reflections back during the PS2 era. What instead the developers had to do was just to take the level, or just some elements of it, make the floor semi-transparent, and just mirror it underneath the player. Throughout the series, there are a couple of times you can spot the number 420. This is of course in reference to weed every day. You may have seen this black pirate flag when riding around the Skater Island level in Pro Skater 3. If you grind it, however, the message "Ahoy, there'll be more skating outside" will appear and the doors will be shot off by a pirate ship outside, revealing a beach with a large pirate ship. Also, if you go to the front of the pirate ship and look off into the distance, you'll be able to see the cruise ship, a nice little tease of what's soon to come. When Pro Skater 1 was released in the PAL regions, Neversoft had to change the title from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater to Tony Hawk's Skateboarding. This was done as the term Pro Skater typically referred to figure skating over there. Later titles would originally be referred to under the original Pro Skater name. In Pro Skater 1 and 2, when you make your way to the end of the mall level and stop just before you hit the teleport area, there is a sign just outside the fenced off area that reads Dead Pines Mall. This is of course in reference to the Back to the Future's Twin Pines Mall, or Single Pines Mall if you're that kind of person. As for why it has the word dead in the title, it's alluding to the fact that the mall you're riding down is, well, kinda dead. Planet Tony Hawk was the largest Tony Hawk fan site for quite a while until its support for it was cut back in 2012, as stated in the Slate blog post. In it was not only info about what was new and upcoming, but almost every kind of promotional material that was released to promote said game, ranging from different E3 reveal videos and in-game demos. There was also sections dedicated to user-submitted materials such as save files, videos containing high score runs, or glitches that people have found. It was pretty much the go-to spot for any hardcore Tony Hawk fan at the time. Sadly, however, the reason why a support for it was cut was because IGN had just spontaneously archived all the sites under the Planet name, thus meaning no more content could have been added. It's such a shame, as you can tell the people running the site had a great passion for the series. In Pro Skater 1 and 2, there are gnomes that can be found hidden throughout the levels. They can be spotted from doing things such as sitting on the couch watching TV, or being more sinister, such as this one holding a knife behind its back with a bear next to it. There's another similar Easter egg with this little piece of graffiti that reads, "Oh, you found me." Alongside with the release of American Wasteland, a special collector's edition was released at a more extra cost, of course. It consisted of 2 bonus classic mode levels, Atlanta of Thug 2 Remix, and a remastered Marseille, 2 bonus characters, 80s Tony Hawk and 70s Alva, as well as a couple bonus features. It also comes in unique packaging with a different cover art and a sleeve. What's funny, however, is that if you happen to have an action replay, you can just unlock the content as it's already on the base version of the game, meaning that you would have essentially just paid extra for the different packaging. Tucked away in the files for Pro Skater 3, there is a logo that reads Darren Thorne's Pro Ping Pong, written in the same way as the Pro Skater games are. This was made in reference to Darren Thorne, who was one of the artists working for Neversoft at the time. On the Skate Heaven level in both Pro Skater 2 and Pro Skater 1 and 2, there is a volcano that sits next to the Wallow Spillway. For the most part, it just idly sits there, yet if you grind this rail that sits on top of Tony's house, the volcano will suddenly roar to life and begin to erupt. If you quickly make it to the volcano and hit the ramp at a specific angle, you can launch yourself into the volcano. Doing so will teleport you to this floating island with a halfpipe that's based off the same halfpipe on the movie Animal Chin. The PS1 version of Pro Skater 4 has an unused secret skater that went by the name of Frycook. He is a generic looking Frycook that for some reason has Bam's face. Either he was going to be a completely separate character and they just used Bam's face as a placeholder, or it was an alternate outfit that would have been unlockable for him. If you go to the park editor and select your theme, eventually you'll set it to a smaller rendition of the LA level. Some parts are added to make it more of a background element, such as these buildings, though the car wash and movie theater can still be seen nearly untouched. In the files for the PC version of Pro Skater 4, there lies an unused level titled Moto X. It's a large white dirt track with a few jumps. It's actually an early test level from the game MTX Moto Tracks, though it originally went by Travis Pastrana's Pro Moto X during development. The PC version was ported by Aspyr Media, the same team that was responsible for porting the Pro Skater games to PC, so it's possible that while working on MTX they were using the build of the Pro Skater 4 engine to test their engine and must have forgotten to take it out during the final release. Similar to butt slaps, neuroslaps are a kind of exploit that more advanced players perform. The timing is more difficult than the ones I explained before, as it requires you to essentially perform a flip trick as well as a sticker slap at the exact same time onto a wall. If you successfully perform it and quickly spam the ollie button during the bail animation, your character will be sent flying into the air, giving you some time to quickly crank out some grabs or flips before hitting the ground and continuing their combo. I'm sure many of you know who Odd Hitter is. He's a YouTuber who primarily does videos on weird and strange video game mysteries and secrets. He is also a big fan of the Tony Hawk series. An artist at Vicarious Visions must have known about Odd Hitter and paid a small tribute by hiding this piece of graffiti that is hidden behind the TV display sections in the mall. The graffiti bears a striking resemblance to his avatar. What's weird is that there is no way to see this in-game by any normal means, meaning that the dev intentionally hid it out of sight, which the only way to view it is by hacking the game and using a free cam. On the Thug 2 Remix version of the Santa Cruz level, if you head towards this building and scale it using the moon gravity cheat and then break over the 2 invisible barriers, you will eventually reach this rooftop. Jumping off of it will lead you to this little ditch area, and behind the walls lies a strange looking texture of what appears to be a red face. To this day, nobody has figured out what this face is supposed to be. Some have speculated that this could have been a cut piece of graffiti that the dev shoved out of sight and forgot to remove. Some have also even said that it could have been the Zero Skateboards logo. However, not only does Zero never make any kind of appearance in Thug 2, and if you put the 2 logos side by side, there really isn't any kind of resemblance. Also, fun fact, did you know that the Zero skull is actually just the skull from Sid's shirt from Toy Story, just slightly modified? This could be referring to either one of the two Rooftop levels in the series, the Rooftops level from the GBA version of Pro Skater 2 or the Skyline level from Pro Skater 2X. For the sake of convenience, I'll just cover both. The Rooftop level is a small condensed level that features a set of quarter pipes that leads to a rail which gaps across to another roof that loops around and shoots you back. This level was in replacement for the Skate Heaven level. As to why, I don't really know, as later GBA entries in the series, showcasing the system is more than capable enough of handling larger scale levels. The second Rooftop level, Skyline, is a small cramped level filled with quarter pipes and rails that seemingly go nowhere and have no real flow to them. It genuinely feels like a bad Creative Park level that was giving it just a more visual flair. It's also considered one of the worst levels in the entire series, as it's almost impossible to get a decent line without crashing into something or falling off the roof entirely. Both these levels were pretty big disappointments, as Rooftops in Pro Skater 2 was an unlockable level that was supposed to be a reward, and Skyline was one of the levels in the Pro Skater 2X career, a career that already consisted of mostly lackluster levels. Most of the Pro Skater games had some kind of PC version that was released alongside the console releases. It's only fitting that Thug 1 would get a PC port as well. That was only released in New Zealand. Yeah, for some reason the PC port of Underground 1 was only released in that region. Also doesn't help that, like most games during the era, was region locked. Meaning that back then, if you managed to snag a copy from there and took it back to any place that wasn't New Zealand, you'd be out of luck. Of course, nowadays that isn't an issue anymore since the game has been region lock cracked, but the fact that this even was a thing still baffles me. On top of that, I couldn't find anything as to why Neversoft or Activision made such a decision. Nowadays, it's easily available on abandonware sites to download. Of course, not without some patches to make it work properly. So if you are interested, I'll leave a link in the description. This entry is pretty self-explanatory. In Pro Skater 5, it's impossible to bail from a manual or grind if your balance beam was all the way in the wrong direction, meaning that there isn't any kind of punishment for not managing your meter properly. Bizarrely, you can still bail from lip tricks in this manner. This is either done as a way to make the game more accessible for newcomers by dumbing the game down, or they just forgot to add the rule to grinds and manuals, already making a boring and buggy game even more broken. In Pro Skater 3, there is a cheat code that enables a first-person camera. You unlock it after beating the career mode 21 times, completing all goals and getting all gold medals. It's pretty poorly implemented as it's really hard to control and see where you're going since the camera is locked to your character's head in an unnatural way. I also wouldn't be surprised if it made some people motion sick. This cheat was originally going to be in Pro Skater 4 as it works pretty much the same as it did in Pro Skater 3, yet it was cut in the final build for unknown reasons. This one did stump me initially, however a couple minutes of thinking and YouTube searches, I was able to find what I believe this entry is talking about. The YouTuber All Sham No Wow did a full playthrough of both Underground 1 and 2 that involve, well, a bone-faced tie-dye clown shoe man. This character was eventually shelved for his American Wasteland playthrough as you have to choose a series of pre-made skaters and cannot create one on that level of freedom in the story mode. Another entry that involves using the free camera in Pro Skater 3, if you use this wall in the Suburbia level and go under the map, you'll be greeted with this large black cube. What makes it stranger is that there is no other level that has this kind of object sitting underneath it. As for what it's for, my guess is that it's used when you go into the Thin Man's Door as you teleport to a large black empty space. Usually developers put objects like this only a couple feet away from the playable area, and when some kind of teleport switch is activated, the game loads you into said area, giving you the illusion that you're teleported to a completely different place. You can see examples such as parts of the New Jersey level in Training, as well as under the Hawaii level you can see the Evil Tiki dimension. Initially I wasn't able to find anything about what Chroma was or how it was tied to Tony Hawk games. However, after doing a bit more digging, I then realized what this entry was talking about. It was talking about a bonus game that was on Tony Hawk's Motion called Hue Pixel Painter. This strange little bonus game uses the motion cartridge that was packed with motion, and it really feels like some kind of tech demo showcasing the motion sensor's capabilities. This is purely from watching videos, however, as it's pretty much impossible to emulate the game since it requires the motion detector to even work. The levels for the prototype of Pro Skater 1 of course had many changes from the final release, from more smaller things such as texture replacements to more bigger ones such as entire redesigns. The prototype for Streets is more of the former. Most things are where you'd seen them in the final build, albeit in a very early state with some objects missing. Some examples being a road that leads to a dead end, or the Gons Gap having a ramp to help you get onto it. There's also this weird little alien face that covers one of the corners on this 2 block. This was either a placeholder texture or going to be a piece of graffiti that would have been touched up later on but eventually changed later on during development. Kelly Slater's Pro Surfer was another game that was featured in the Activision's O2 lineup. I've never played it, so I can't really tell you if it's worth checking out. There is a demo for Pro Skater 4 featured in it, however. It's very similar to the early build of Pro Skater 4 that we covered in the last Iceberg, and while playing around there are some interesting changes from this build to the final release. Things such as UI and gameplay sounds, much rougher mission intros that feature no voice acting, and the Simon Says challenge is different, this time being based on what I think is how many chicks you repeat until the timer ends, unlike how it is in the final game where you have to complete the list before the timer reaches 0. If you want a longer and more in-depth look into the beta for Pro Skater 4, the YouTuber Flippy, who we'll be talking about again in a bit, made an analysis video on the subject. Even though it's unlisted, I'll provide a link in the description. Back during the announcement and build-up to the release of Pro Skater 5, Flippy made 2 videos talking in detail about his initial hopes and changes to the game before release. You may have heard of them because of his gaming glitches videos or the numerous videos he did in the Saints Row series. As for the Pro Hater videos themselves, his first video on the topic discusses his distaste for the current gameplay he's seen so far and suggests some changes to it to better match how to play like in the earlier titles in hopes of making the game better for both new and old fans. The follow-up video, aptly titled Pro Hater 2, is him stating that originally the video is going to be an in-depth analysis on how Pro Skater 5 failed to match the fluidity and snappiness of Pro Skater 4, both gameplay and level design wise. Instead, however, he ditches the idea entirely to rant about how just low quality and bad the game is, and compares it to the previous Pro Skater games which came out 11 years ago by the video's release. When you see the side-by-side comparison, it's pretty bad. The second video is still available to watch, so if you're interested, I'll provide the link in the description. In the files for Pro Skater 2, there's an image that reads Pro Skater Work in Progress, and underneath reads 1998 Activision. This is possibly the earliest known piece of development for Pro Skater 1 and way before Tony even knew about the game, let alone jumping on board for the project. And with that, we complete another Iceberg. And to be honest, I don't think I'll be making another one of these anytime soon, unless you guys really want me to. However, for now, any support of this video will be awesome. I'll see you guys next time.